If you're a change maker, a leader, or a social entrepreneur, there's one very important thing that you need to know, and that is your wisdom, leadership, and guidance are exactly what someone somewhere needs right now. It is so important that you don't hold yourself back because you make a real difference in the world and you inspire others to follow your lead every single time you stand up courageously and proudly for what you believe is right by ethically supporting a common humanity of dignity and equity. My name is Darren Steele. This is Leading from Human-Heartedness. In today's episode, I want to talk about productivity. I'm calling this, how do you get things done and inspire others as an effective leader without burning out? Now, if you've been following along either with my articles or previous podcast video episodes, I've talked about your well-being, your virtue ethics, your beliefs, your values. I've talked about creative expression and your creativity. And I've also talked about how you think, critical thinking, and being reasonable, which is a kind of logic. Not a kind of logic, but it is logic combined with being understanding and compassionate for others at the same time so that you're not just thinking like a machine. As a leader, change maker, social entrepreneur, if you're working with other people, if you're leading and managing a team, productivity is probably one of the most important words in your workplace or your environment. And there may be some other words like quota, bonuses, but it all comes back to how productive are you? How productive is the team? And there's lots of different ways of measuring that, quantifying it, and qualifying it. But we're not going to be looking at those things. We're going to be looking at how you actually deal with productivity that allows you to be a human-hearted leader, that allows you to feel at your best, be in your greatest power, meaning having the greatest amount of impact and influence, so that you can make a difference in the work that you do. So let me tell you a truth. Life and work are not about time management. Life and work are not about time management. Maybe you think, hey, hold on a second, Darren. When I go into work, I have deadlines for projects. I have meetings at these times of days. I have to get these things done. If this isn't done by this time, the shit's going to hit the fan. We might have budget cuts. We might have staff cuts. I might lose my job. Okay. I'm not saying that the time on the clock is not something we can completely ignore. But time in and of itself is a concept that we as humans have created to organize ourselves, to get people to come together at the same time, to work together, and to collectively, hopefully work together to make an effective and an efficient difference, whatever that difference may be. But if you're focused only on how much more can I get done in my day, how much better can I manage my time, you're missing out because you can't manage your life based on blocks of time. How you can manage your life is through what I call the 3 E's: your energy, your emotions, and your enthusiasm. And those 3 things work together. They're dependent upon and they influence each other. So you have low energy. What does that look like? And what do? Do you keep working? Do you force yourself to get things done? Or do you find a way to take a rest or go get some fresh air, change your environment by going outside and looking at the sky or looking at water if you're near water? Do you find a different way of doing a task or a different task that sort of lines up with the level of energy that you have so that you don't get even more exhausted? Now, what happens if you show up and your emotions are completely out of whack? You have no control of your emotions. Do you kid yourself? Do you lie to yourself and say, oh yeah, of course, I can think logically. I can look at this and think critically. I can also be reasonable. Or do you pull back and shift into a different style of work that minimizes the disruption to yourself and to others? Do you decide, hey, I have to reschedule this meeting? Maybe you don't say, because I'm feeling like an absolute a-hole right now and I don't want to talk to anybody. Worst case scenario example. Are you unenthusiastic about the task or the project in front of you? And how does that make you feel? How is your posture and your facial expression changing when you have no enthusiasm for what it is you're about to do? And how do you change that? Do you change your state of mind? Or do you change what it is you're doing? Or do you focus on how you either delegate or the part of the task that is aligned with what brings you meaning and motivation? Lots of things there to consider. But you can see how each one of these three things, your energy, your emotions, and your enthusiasm, cannot not affect the other, right? In other words, they affect each other if they're not working in the most optimal or efficient way possible. There's that word again, efficient. So ultimately, instead of time management, if you think of those three E's, how can you optimize them, prioritize them, focus on them, give them attention so that you're going to feel more empowered, that you're going to feel more at ease when you show up in your day? And the more at ease you feel, well, it's easier to do work. It's easier to be around other people. It's easier to lead and to manage. And other people like being around you. So if you're working with a team, your emotions, your energy, and your enthusiasm are absolutely going to affect everyone else in the room. And if you're not paying attention or you're not aware of these three things as I've described them, how does that look for you? Do you flounder? Do you continue to feel frustrated? Do you act inconsiderate, judgmental, or dictatorial towards other people? Because when we don't know, we don't know. It's a kind of ignorance, right? It doesn't mean that you're being willfully ignorant, but if you just don't know, it can be very difficult to change either the ways you've been thinking about how you do things now, or the behaviors that you've had in place for some time that are continuing to perpetuate the kind of results that you're currently getting. So let's look at these three things in a little bit more detail. And I like to call these three E's as your strategy for efficient and humane productivity. Humane productivity, because most of us want to accomplish something great. Most of us want to make a difference. And I think most of us want to enjoy what we're doing. So enthusiasm is a big key here, but like I said, they all work together. If we get very metaphorical, efficient productivity is like water flowing around a huge rock in the middle of a stream. The rock is the obstacle in the way, but water just finds its way around almost of no mind. There's a rock in the way. That doesn't matter. I'm going to flow around it. Whereas we human beings often see something and we're like, well, I've got to get a hammer. I've got to hit it. I've got to chisel away at it. I've got to break this thing, instead of finding a way to easily navigate our way around, over, under, with minimal resistance. And this brings me to my next point, because efficiency is not about a lack of resistance or challenges. There's always going to be resistance. There's always going to be problems and struggles and challenges. Instead, it is about the ease with which you get around the problem. Get around the problem. And the more that you know about yourself and how you feel and your emotional state and your level of energy, the easier it's going to be for you to function at your best and accomplish what it is you set out to do, and simply have greater peace of mind and happiness and joy. So think about that. How do you feel in your day doing whatever it is you do, leading others? Are you feeling stress, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration? Or are you feeling ease and contentment and peace of mind and happiness and an inner sense of power because you're accomplishing and making a difference? And how would you rather feel? So let's take a look at the three in a bit more detail. Energy. Yeah. We all have a limited amount of physical and intellectual and emotional energy every single day, and it's never the same, right? You have a great sleep, fine. You have a great sleep and Maybe like what happened today, you go out in the morning first thing and you're walking your dog, or whatever the story may be. The dog is eating a stick and then he starts choking and I panic because I'm not quite sure if he's breathing, because he's doing the open mouth as if he's going to hack, but he's not making a hacking sound. It's freezing cold outside. I take off my glove. I open his mouth. I try and get in there to see if something. Then I put my hand in the snow to get all the phlegm from him trying to cough up this piece of stick. And then my hand is burning because it's minus 15 degrees Celsius outside. I woke up feeling rested and happy and energetic. And in that moment, I was completely thrown off. Now, my energy was literally sucked out of me. This also affected my emotions, which we're going to get into a moment. And of course, it completely changed my level of enthusiasm. So you see, you can't affect the one without affecting all the others. But on my way home with my dog, I was just very consciously thinking through, this has been rectified. This wasn't a problem. I don't know exactly what was going on with him, but he's fine now. He's fine. So back to, we have limited physical, intellectual, and emotional energy for every single day, and it's never the same. Energy is something that you can manage, but time is not something you can manage. So you can do the things in your day to optimize your state of energy. You can do the things to make sure that you go to bed and have a good sleep. You can eat in a certain way that you're going to feel not full, not uncomfortable, not overtired. And when it comes to the effectiveness of doing work and how that relates to your energy, you can also look at when you do work at the different times of day. So we all do different types of work better at different types of day. There's creative work, there's deep intellectual work. Maybe you're having to write something, a communique for work. Maybe you have to do something very statistical or analytical using a spreadsheet. These are all different ways of thinking. Do you know when you do that kind of work best? Some people are very creative later in the day or in the evening. Some people are like, get me out of bed, give me a coffee, and I want to get in front of my computer and start writing. What is it for you? That's something you can control. That's something you can manage. So when you plan to complete your tasks or projects in your day based on the kind of energy and focus that's required that you know you are best at, you increase your personal efficiency. You increase your production, your income potential, your ability to lead, and the impact and the influence that you're going to have. Now, I don't want to go into detail on these things, but I want to tell you that your effective energy management depends on quite a number of variables. I've already mentioned time of day. And in that aspect of time that I said earlier is an illusion, there's how much time do you spend on something? Are you in flow state, or are you in a time crunch where you only have 55 minutes to do this task because you have a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning? Your working environment. Are you working from home? Are you working in an office? Are you in an open space? Are you in a closed space? The type of work you're doing. I just talked about creative task, maybe writing, maybe doing something statistical or mathematical, or being in a meeting where you're managing people. The motivation that you have for the work that you're doing, your rest and recovery and nutrition all have an effect on your energy. Your state of mind. Do you meditate? Do yoga? Did you have a lovely evening with your partner and your animal or your kids the evening before? And then the people that are in your environment. All things to consider, some of which you might not be able to control, some of which you might be able to. So let's get into the next E, emotions. How easy is it for you to do something that you absolutely cannot stand? Something that you loathe? It's a stupid question, isn't it? Of course, it is so difficult to do something that you cannot stand doing. And what kind of emotions does that bring up in you? It probably makes you angry, at least for one emotion to identify. Conversely, if you can align your core emotional drives and desires with what it is you want to do, the goals that you have in mind, you're going to have an easier time and you're going to have more capacity to work with minimal friction, minimal tension, because you're going to have that mindset, that more open mind to deal with challenges when things don't go as planned. And when I say you're going to have the mindset, well, from a neuroscience perspective, that means we're going to be more in our human thinking, logical brain, as opposed to in one of our more reactive brains where we might be seeking social safety or security or comfort, or at worst, we're feeling under threat and stressed, and it's a fight, flight, or freeze kind of situation. So do you know what the triggers are? Can you pull yourself back before you react? Are you able to practice those things that optimize your state, your environment, your energy, that will make it easier to manage your emotions so you can be more in your desired emotional state? When you have emotional self-mastery, emotional intelligence, that's a prized leadership quality. When people look at you and admire your ability to be calm and have composure, even in difficult situations, they are inspired by you. They are inspired to follow your lead and to do better for themselves. That's a very impactful effect from taking care of yourself first to inspire others to follow your lead. Because emotions move you towards what you want, or they move you away from what you don't. So another way of saying this is what drives you moves you. So if you are moving in the direction of what you most want, you have greater efficiency, you have greater ease of getting to where you want to go. So the last E, enthusiasm. What is it? Enthusiasm is an intense and eager enjoyment and interest in whatever you're focused on doing. So I want you to be true to yourself, be honest with yourself right now. How interested are you in the work that you're doing? How excited and eager are you to be the leader in your position, to be the change maker? What I'm not saying is that there are not challenges in the work that you do, but are you able to find interest in finding strategies or solution to those problems? Are you eager to show up to work to make that difference? You see what I'm saying here? One thing that for me is a big tip is that if I can find enthusiasm, if I can experience enthusiasm from doing work that increases my energy and emotional state earlier in the day, that has a huge effect on how things go for me in the rest of the day. So if I get up, maybe check an email, see a comment on an article, it's not something I like, woo, that really changes all of my 3 E's, right? But if I can do something that raises my level of enthusiasm, for me, that could be journaling. That's going out for a wonderful walk with my dog where something horrible doesn't happen. Exercise that just automatically gives me that dopamine release, those feel-good emotions. I'm going to have greater enthusiasm, which does diminish throughout the day. So if I can bring that level up, I'm already ahead of the game, if that makes sense. So enthusiasm is associated with the motivation and the passion for what you're doing. And when you feel enthusiastic, what you're doing feels easy, right? If it feels easy, you might even find yourself in flow state more often, where you're just hyper-focused on the task at hand. Time just becomes a concept. Nothing is distracting. I mean, that's the elixir of being creative, but it's also the fuel for leaders to really get heads down without tension, without stress, without worry, and they're optimal and their best. So I want to end with a thought. I've done this. Have you tried personal productivity frameworks and systems and blueprints and calendar and task management apps? Have you attended trainings or read books on how to get more done fast? Did things change and improve for you? Or do you feel like, Okay, I took on all these more ideas. I tried to put them into place, and it was hard to put them into place, but I don't really know if it got me the results I wanted. Something still felt like it was missing. I looked at my calendar, and now I've got all these time chunks, and I've got all these different colors, but I don't see any space to breathe. I've got this Excel template, and I've got this app where I'm plugging in all of my tasks and my subtasks, and I'm using Slack to communicate to the team about who's doing task A, who's doing task A.1. But now I don't know what's going on. I'm not saying that those apps, those tools don't work, but maybe, just maybe, consider for a moment, in any of those productivity tools or trainings that you've tried, did they talk about the human? Did they talk about self-awareness, your energy, your emotions, and your enthusiasm? Because think about what makes a building stand. Yeah, sure, it's the concrete pillars that go up the building that everything attaches around. Most important are the foundations. The deeper, the more well-constructed the foundations that are dug into the earth, that bring support, that support everything above it, that building is going to stand the test of time. It's going to weather earthquakes, all kinds of disruptions. The same thing in your life. If you are not aware of how to best manage your energy, your emotions, and your enthusiasm, it doesn't matter what other external digital tools or trainings you put into place. Once you have your 3 E's, I want to say control, but that's not really it. Once you're aware of how you best function by taking care of and cultivating and being aware of your energy, emotions, and enthusiasms, that creates already the greatest ease for you to show up, be the best leader you can be, to have the greatest amount of influence and impact, and then everything else is just assistance on top of this foundation of exceptional ease and efficiency that you've created for yourself through your own self-mastery. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I would love to hear what was the most important aspect that you took out of today's episode. If you were to focus on this one thing, what would change for you in your life?